This is a talk about the political correct, what is politically correct, versus truth. We find in today's world, and now that we have entered 2020, we might find it more and more, that people go for the politically correct. But isn't truth more important? The mother of Pondicherry used to say, cling to truth, cling to truth. Now, in 2019, in my opinion, and I think quite a few other people share the same opinion, the BJP government went for the politically correct to explain some of their very wonderful moves. The government of Mr. Modi has done some of the things that were lagging for 70 years, that should have been done for so long. And Mr. Modi and Mr. Amit Shah had the courage to implement these moves, these resolutions. For instance, if you take Article 370, instead of saying that, oh, it's going to benefit economically the Kashmiris because they'll have more freedom, why not say the truth? And the truth is that for 70 years, Kashmiris, people from Kashmir, particularly the Kashmiri Muslims, could go all over India, buy houses, start business, install themselves, whereas Indians could not go to Kashmir, could not buy a house, could not buy land, could not start a business. This was totally unjust. Now, if the government would have said the truth, this was the truth. And even probably the Muslims would have understood it, because we see that Kashmiri Muslims have taken over all over India the souvenir trade. You find that from Pune to Bombay to Madras to Pondicherry, it is Kashmiri Muslims who hold the souvenir trade. So they might have understood. Now, for the Citizen Act, instead of saying the goody-goody thing that it's going to benefit, the Hindus from Pakistan or from Bangladesh, they can become citizens, they're unfairly treated. True, but there are only hundreds of them, a few hundreds of them. Now, I think the government was targeting the 10 million illegal Bangladeshi Muslims who are in India. Now, why not say the truth? That this law aims at, filtering these people. And I think Muslims who have understood, Indian Muslims who have Indian citizenship, who have the same right as every Indian, might have understood, because these 10 million illegal Bangladeshi Muslims are taking the bread of their mouth. There's unemployment in India. These people are taking employment. The economy is not doing well. These people are taking jobs. So if the BJP government had stuck to the truth, it might have ring a note with everybody, including Muslims. Now, about Ayodhya again, every historian, even Marxist historians like Irfan Habib or Romila Thapar, have admitted that Muslim invaders razed hundreds of thousands of temples, some of them so sacred. The Somnath temple was razed 7 times, including by Aurangzeb. Now, if you say, look, so many Hindu temples have been razed. Some of them are still there, like Kashi Vishwanath in Kashi, the most holy place of Hindus, where the mosque is standing on top of that. Let us have Ayodhya. Maybe the Muslims will have understood that truth. Again, we see in the national population census that the government has not explained properly that every nation in the world needs to have a census. There is nothing against any religion. Every nation in the world has a census, and some of them much more strictly than in India. India is a country, I as a Westerner, I've been in India, living in India for so long, I never had any problems, and nobody ever asked for my passport, I go freely. India is a country where you can go without papers. You can go without papers for a long time. Nobody is going to ask you papers. So some kind of census is needed, some kind of scrutiny. And this is happening now. Now, the government didn't explain that also. And as a result, we saw these riots. Muslims in India felt that Article 370, that Ayodhya, that the Citizen Act, that the national census were aimed at them, whether it was not aimed at all at them. But the BJP government didn't care to explain the truth. So I think in 2020, it is important that the BJP government, that Mr. Narendra Modi has a real media wing, that not necessarily is BJP, that can tell him some of the truths that he may not want to hear. But he needs to hear them. He needs to hear them. So the BJP in 2020 needs a proper media advisory board. The BJP government in 2020 needs a proper media advisory board with friendly journalists who are non-political, and we may not always agree with the BJP government or Mr. Modi, but their advice will be very precious to Mr. Modi. Namaste. Have a good year 2020. May India come forward as a superpower, spiritual, but also economic, political, and military. Namaste.